Hey up guys, Leeds Lad Loves Coins here. Welcome back to the channel. Right, excuse me here. We're going to get into something now that I kind of mentioned in the previous video about physical silver, what is actually going on with it, and I wanted to give you my take on what is actually happening. I'm just getting sorted out here. I've got my cup of coffee. I'll need it because I'll probably get brain freeze doing this. I'm going to try and simplify this as much as I can. It's quite an in-depth topic, but I'm going to try and break it down as much as I can. What is going on with silver? When I looked this morning at silver, it had gone over £76 an ounce, £76 an ounce, and has gone over $100 an ounce. Mental. And people are asking me, what's going on, Dave? You know, should we stop buying silver? Should we cash out? What should we do? Well, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your physical silver. I'm just going to give you my take on what's going on. And I've had to take some notes here just to keep it structured, because there's certain steps, certain areas that you need to understand before we get to the absolute bones of what is going on. In my opinion, you can look anywhere on the internet, nobody is talking about this, and I mean nobody, but this is what I think is driving silver at the moment. So let's move on with it. Facts. We all know what this is, yeah? This is fiat currency, and it's backed by nothing but trust. Nothing. The correlation between gold and silver and paper money printed was broken. I'm not going to get into the history of it. Yeah, you can all look this up yourself. But this is fiat currency, and it's based on nothing but trust. That's trust in the banking system. The trust that the bank will pay the bearer on demand this amount. It's not backed by anything. Yeah, and we'll begin to understand that more as we move on. The fiat currency in the banking world is known as a tier 1 asset. This here, this little piece of metal that's quite heavy is gold. This is money. Yeah. The banking system says this is money. This is backed by the physical gold that you hold. Nothing will ever change that. Remember, I always say, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So own your physical gold. This gold last year was reclassified as a tier 1 asset, i.e. money. This little beauty here, 1 ounce, a Britannia, has monetary value. Yeah, this is, or should I say physical silver is an industrial metal. Think about that. It's an industrial metal. This is not a tier 1 asset. It is pure speculation. And you'll start to understand that even more so as we get deeper into this rabbit hole. So I want you to think about silver for a second, because that's primarily what we're looking at. Silver. Silver as an industrial metal is in deficit. What I mean by that is the amount of silver that's produced every year is in deficit by approximately, in 2025 I think the deficit was about 146 million ounces, something like that. Anyway, the fact is, these are facts, these are not my opinions, these are absolute facts. We've been in deficit, so that's the amount of silver produced and the physical demand for the silver, because it's an industrial metal, remember. Every phone, computer, the military industrial complex, solar panels, everything requires silver because of its how conductive it is. Yeah, all of the batteries and EVs. So it's an industrial metal, and we've been in deficit for 5 years. I want you to think about that. The amount of physical silver we have against the demand is crazy, and that is not going to improve, and we're going to see that as we get further. So let's move on from currency, yeah, from fiat currency, from tier 1 assets money and industrial metals, i.e. silver, and we'll move on. You have to understand all of these elements, so please don't click off this video, because the real money shot comes at the end. It really does. And the reason why it comes at the end is because you have to understand a lot of things before, or a few things before we actually get there. So I'm going to get into the banking structure, and again you have to understand this. So it's a pyramid, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fraudulent pyramid, it's a Ponzi scheme, but that's discussion for another matter, yeah. These are all facts, so this is not, again, not my opinion, this is how it is. So at the pyramid, at the apex of the pyramid, I don't know if I've gone out of shot there, but the apex of the pyramid is the BIS, yeah. I don't know if you guys know what the BIS is, but it's the bank of all banks. It's called the bank, excuse me, I'm just looking at we're starting to get some sunlight. It's the Bank of International Settlements. That's what BIS stands for. And it's based in Basel in Switzerland. Yeah? So BIS is the top of the pyramid. And slightly under that is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, right? So these are the rule makers. The BIS, the International Monetary Fund, but primarily the BIS based in Switzerland. These are the rule makers, and their role is to promote financial stability. Remember that. It's to promote financial stability. So under BIS comes the central banks. So you've got the Fed, or is it the Bank of America, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, etc., etc. Then the tier under that are the international institutions, the regional bank, or the national banks, the regional banks. So as far as in British terms, HSBC, Lloyds Banking Group, etc. Yeah. So that's the banking structure. Now, remember that BIS, IMF, rule makers, yeah, and everybody else follows suit. So all I'm really interested here in this hobby or in this video is silver, so the commodity traders. But you have to understand the banking institution and how they all kind of fit together before you can really draw true conclusions. So, as in the banking structure, we've got a pyramid. in the commodity traders, the commodity institutions, we've also got a pyramid structure. Yeah. So at the top of that structure is the LBMA. Stands for the London Bankers Mercantile Association, or something like that. Anyway, the LBMA. The LBMA was created by the Bank of England. Yeah. The LBMA sets the rules. They are the big dog as far as the rule setters. Trust me, everything is changing, but right now, the LBMA, they are the big dog. They are the rule makers, just like the Bank of International Settlements is the rule makers for the banking institutions. Now, under the LBMA, we have the COMEX, which is based in America, and then we have the Shanghai Index, which is based in China. Yep. So we've got COMEX USA, LBMA London, USA, China. Things to remember, about that particular structure. So, China, excuse me, let me take a cup of coffee because I'm getting a bit dry. It is a dry subject, but stay with me. Trust me. At the end of this video, you're going to go, wow. So things to remember. China, it's the world's biggest producer of silver, bar none. Bar none. Now, I don't know how many of you guys picked up on this, but I think it was last month, or start of the New Year, so January 1st, Shanghai, China, suspended shipments of silver abroad. Full stop. They're protecting their ass. Yeah, remember, silver is a industrial commodity. It's an industrial metal. You need it for EV battery production, everything, for everything. China, the world's largest producer, have halted shipments abroad. Boom. Stopped. They're covering their own asses. So that's one. Two, we know we've already covered this, but there's a structural deficit, in the amount of physical silver produced to what is actually needed. In 2025, that was approximately 156 million ounces. 156, thereabouts, million ounces. That's against what we need to what we actually have. I guess it's easy to assume or to think that physical silver demand is only going to increase. It's only going to increase, right? Also, another fact, bringing mines, people will say, well, just set up a new mining operation. Setting up a mine, a silver mine, it takes approximately 8 years to set it up, to bring it online for production. 8 years to start producing silver. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah. So, this is now my take on what is happening right now. It's not financial advice, guys. What you do is entirely up to you. But remember, knowledge is power. And there are other issues that are affecting the price of silver. But this, I think, is the absolute driver of the price right now. So I told you earlier, I was looking at silver, £76 an ounce, I've bought Britannia's at £20 2 years ago an ounce. I paid £45 an ounce for these. £45 an ounce. I was looking on Bullion by Post and other bullion dealers in the UK this morning for Britannia's, and they were selling them at £110 plus. So £110 per ounce if you were buying in bulk. If you're buying individual, 117. the US Mint has suspended, or I don't know if they've brought it back online, but they suspended trading in silver coins so that they could reevaluate the price of silver and their pricing structure moving forward. I think the last time I looked at 2025 or 2026, silver American Eagle was something like 176 US dollars. 176 US dollars. Madness. So now we're going to get into the absolute bones of what's going on. Remember I talked about the rule makers, the banking structure. So BIS, yeah. We all know, so a little bit of history for you. In 2008 there was a banking crisis. We had run-on banks for the first time in the UK. I think it's the first time we had a bank close its doors because of this, the crisis in the banking the banking liquidity, if you would. So we had the banking crisis, which necessitated a massive bailout on behalf of central banks to the institutions to keep them afloat, to stop a major crisis. Really, to stop. We were a nanosecond, as I understand it, in Gordon Brown's reign in the UK from a total banking collapse. Think about that. What would happen? A total banking collapse. Yeah, no access to your banking funds. Remember, this is a debt instrument. Yeah, it's a promise to pay the bearer. It isn't backed by anything. If you think that the banks hold this in their vaults, you're sadly mistaken. Right, so BIS, based in Switzerland, Basel, remember their role is to create stability within the financial institutions. That's their primary focus, their primary aim. That's their goal. Yeah, they're the rule setters. So they started a consultation process to improve banking liquidity and also to increase the reserves held by banks, so that if there was another financial crisis, that's a subject for another day, because it is happening. I'm not a financial channel, but we're all buyers of silver here, so we need to understand what's going on. So what they want to do is mitigate the risk of a future financial collapse. Full stop. So they started implementing a new set of rules, and we call it Basel III. You can look this up online. It's there for everybody to see, but not a lot of people know about this, and nobody is talking about this on the internet. So BIS put in place Basel III rules and regulations. The West, Europe, the UK, etc., have primarily implemented Basel III rules and regulations. So banking liquidity, the amount of reserves that they have to hold to meet demand. I believe, if I'm correct, the goal is for banking institutions, as a percentage of their trading value, they have to hold a minimum of a month's worth of liquidity in their reserves. So if there's a run on banks, if there's a problem, yeah, they can meet the day-to-day operational costs of running that bank and keeping the markets stable, because that's the primary goal of the central bank, is for the markets. Yeah. So it's called Basel III. The West has implemented it. The United States have not. Think about that. They have not. And the Bank of the BIS, excuse me. If you find me stuttering, it's not. This is like, in my brain, it's common knowledge up here. It's common knowledge. And I'm just trying to, so it makes perfect sense to me how the system works, the fluidity between the systems, etc. I'm just trying to get it out in words so that you guys can understand it. So Basel III, the West has implemented it, however the US have not. And the BIS have given the US until 2028, think of that date, remember 2028, to fully implement Basel III. Why? So here we go. Here's the interesting stuff. Here's the money shot. This is why you've stuck to the end of this video to listen to this. So, what we know, Shanghai, they've halted overseas shipments of physical silver. There's been a massive physical silver deficit for 5 consecutive years. So we'll move now on to COMEX and Basel III, how this affects everything. Did you know that for every physical ounce of silver, that is held, there are 366 paper contracts, just like this. There's 306, a ratio of 366 to 1. Remember that, paper contracts. These are futures instruments where traders can lock in the future price of silver without actually owning it, without actually having an ounce. And to boot, they don't even have to pay for that physical silver. They only have to pay for a percentage. And they're buying millions. Well, they're not what they're doing is trading on paper. They're trading on paper millions of ounces, millions and millions of ounces that they don't have. Remember the liquidity problems I was talking to you about? Because of the banking structure and the banking rules and regulations, implementation, etc. in the US, this is a United States problem. The US banks carry zero reserves. Zero. Think about that. The Bank of International Settlements, their role is to create stability in the markets, to improve the liquidity of banking institutions and trust in banking institutions. Think about this now. This is my take. It's not financial advice. This is what I take from this. If every paper contract holder today said, I want my silver, and this is now because of, we've got a fiat currency crisis. We're on a train and we're heading to a massive crash. There's a massive crash ahead and that. So if every paper contract holder said today, I want my silver, the COMEX could not deliver it because it doesn't exist. There isn't the physical silver to fulfill the contracts. Remember that. So there would be a default in the contract, which means COMEX, the commodity exchange, would have to repay those contracts plus interest, plus damages. It would be in the absolute trillions. We know that the banks have zero liquidity, so they would default. What does that equal? A banking crash, what the BIS are trying to avert. The system knows this, and the system are trying to avert this. So, this is my opinion only. Don't take this as financial advice. This is my opinion, and I'm hoping that all this is now coming together. So, BIS have given the US until 2028. When you think US, think COMEX and the federal bank. Because remember, the federal bank The Federal Reserve is the biggest customer of COMEX. They're the ones keeping this whole Ponzi scheme together. So the BIS have given the US until 2028 to liquidate or vastly reduce these paper contracts and improve liquidity. Because they know if everybody tried to cash in today, so the system is slow. Most of these contracts run for a month at a time, so they're slowly. And at the end of the month, when they cash them in, then they take the profits. If they've made profits in this market, they've made massive profits. Yeah, they take the profits and buy new contracts. Well, they're trying to ease those contracts out of the system. That's what I think. What am I? I'm just an ordinary guy. Yeah. So they're trying to ease these contracts out of the system. What is happening is, because these contracts are being eased out of the system, these contracts are the boot that has been held on the throat of silver for decades, keeping the price of silver low. Yeah? They want to buy it low, release the pressure, and sell it high. So once these contracts are out of the system, by 2028, remember, the US has to implement this, we will start to see the true value of silver. So silver right now, because the boot is slowly being taken off the throat, is starting to see its true value. By 2028, we will absolutely see its true value. 2028. What am I saying? It's up to you. Take out of this what you want, but I'm holding on. I'm still buying, as you know. I'm holding on. 2028, in my opinion, not financial advice, is when we will see the true value of silver. Right. Whew. I hope that was helpful. I hope so. If it is, big thumbs up. Come on. 60% of you guys who watch my videos and gals don't subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button. It's not going to cost you a penny. Okay, enough. If you like the content, give me a big thumb up. Tell me what you think. Do you think I'm talking rubbish? Is this something you've ever heard about before? Are you like, wow, Dave has educated me today? Just leave comments, please. This is Leeds Lad Loves Coins. I've bored you. I've definitely bored you long enough. Hasta luego.